Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Goaltending, where your why is bigger than your excuses. Today, we're getting into understanding financing, ways to plan for getting a primary residence, or even to build an investment portfolio, or like just get a first investment property, to understand all those things. So we have an outstanding guest, an expert in the industry to help us with those. And before I introduce him, I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of your journey. That is truly just the blessing in my life, to be able to bring this content and to see the impact that it has on people. So I appreciate you tuning in. I just want to ask you to like, subscribe, share the information with other people so it can make an impact. And what I really love is when you comment with your thoughts and questions. It's a great way to join the conversation and actually be a part of this. So I love to hear from you. And today's episode is fueled by Prepping with Peppers. Very happy to have them as a sponsor for the show. Now, to get right into our guest, he is a senior loan officer with North Point Bank, and he's worked in the mortgage industry for 11 years. So he's not a rookie. And during that time, he's been one of the top lenders for Kentucky Housing 7 times. So I don't have to teach you how to do math, but think about that. All right. That's 7 out of those 11 years. He smashes it. He works all over the country with different referral partners to expand his knowledge, his capability, his relationships. He's a high-performing, multi-million-dollar producer every year, which is directly correlated to his heart of service and his willingness to just go above and beyond for people. On top of all that, he's a family man, a friend. Super excited to have you here, Dustin Mistelske. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. I'm pumped. I love talking about finances and homes and stuff like that. Just like you said, I mean, I live and breathe this stuff every single day. So this is gonna be fun.
Oh yeah. First, I appreciate you taking the time. And the thing is I didn't just bring Dustin here because I know he's an expert. I've worked with Dustin. Like, I've asked him
Couple times.
all kinds of questions. We've worked together on multiple things. We've even done investments together. So, like, I know the value, the information that he has to bring. And I was like, I'm bringing this guy on because people can really use that information to be able to make more informed decisions. So let's just start first with, where did your journey start and what led you to getting into the mortgage industry?
I've actually got a weird story how I got into this. So in college, 9 months away from getting my accounting and management degree, they threw it on me. Hey, you got to do an externship to get your degree. It's just something we changed in our program. Like, cool. I didn't even know what that was. So they gave me this huge list of companies that kind of would, make sense within my field of my degree. And it was like 40, 50 things to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
So I just picked something, and it happened to be with a mortgage company. Had no idea what a mortgage was. I had to look it up. I swear, I had no clue. I'd never heard the word like actually used in a sentence before. My parents never talked about it. So here I am, like, all right, I'm going to go do this externship. So I get my degree. I can be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hate every second of it. I already had that in my head. I walk into this room. There's 50 people in here look just like me, interviewing for a spot in this internship for it's called Liberty. And I'm like, I'm super nervous. I almost turn around. I almost walk out. I was so nervous. I almost walked out. So I finally get the courage to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
They are only selecting 6 people. I wait a week. I get a missed call from them, and they say wrong number. So I'm super bummed.
Oh.
Calls me back 30 minutes later saying, hey, the 6th person we were going to pick never answered. You are our 7th choice. Do you want to? Oh, of course. So I take it, right?
Yeah.
So after all that, I was the only one that actually made it. Out of the 6, they didn't last but 2 months.
Wow.
The company did it again. They interviewed 40 more people, tried to select 4 or 5 the next time. Nobody made it. So I'm one out of like 90 people this company interviewed, and I'm the only one that survived. And here I am. I've been doing it ever since.
That's impressive. Yeah. First off, like, not even knowing what this is. Like, I don't know anything about this. This is where I think I'm going.
I didn't have the slightest clue what a mortgage was. Like, zero knowledge.
That's, first off, it's impressive, to go in there, that much competition, not knowing things. And I would say, just from knowing you, like, the drive that you have, the work ethic, like in the end, like I said, the heart of service to take care of people. I can see that being kind of what stood out. What do you think?
Well, knowing that I was the seventh choice and I was not supposed to get in, I immediate chip on my shoulder.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I was like, all right, I'm gonna win it no matter what this is. Like,
right.
so that I think that actually helped, honestly.
The competitive nature.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's start with where really a lot of people are. A lot of people have been, and it can be a very challenging point, and that is trying to get that first home.
Yep.
Like trying to figure out, how do we manage this? What do I need for a down payment? Like, can we afford that? When is the right time in our lives? Like, there's a ton of questions that go along with it, and it's such a huge and big step for people in their lives. Super important step. So, can you just talk about some of the important things to know and consider when it comes to financing that first home?
Sure. So I think a lot of people when they're buying their first home, no one is really taught about credit for some reason, unless you have a family member that's in the financial industry that can prep you for it, or somebody who's just been through it and they're like, oh, I can't let my kids fail. So I think that's the number one thing is a lot of first-time home buyers, they come into this thinking they've got, great credit and they have no credit, which
Okay.
isn't a bad thing. It's just there's no measurement to gauge how they can afford to pay back home if they're going to pay it back.
Right.
So as a banker or a lender, it's harder to get a loan sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to put this person in a position to fail
Yeah.
and they default on their first home and then their lives are completely messed up. So I think the very first step is just talking to somebody, a loan officer, and just figuring out what your credit looks like.
Okay.
That in my opinion is the biggest hurdle because they'll talk to their friends who
Mm-hmm.
who got this for their house and they'll talk to this but you got this and next thing you know they're like, well how come all their stuff's better?
Yeah.
They had the credit and the financial background. They were prepped. You weren't, unfortunately. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my biggest thing. And I've been doing my best to teach everybody I can about credit because it is just it's the third most important piece of buying a house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask this because uh, obviously, like you said, there's a lot of people that like don't understand credit and how it
Yeah.
works. We've worked together, so you know that I'm kind of risk averse. I don't love to take on debt or have too much, but I do think that there are certain ways to leverage debt to help you progress in life,
Exactly.
to reach certain goals, to reach things that you want. And so, what are some ways that, like, do you recommend to people for them to, if they come in with no credit or bad credit, like, what's some good ways to turn that around, to start to build a score, to put them in a good position to be able to?
The easiest way, and this can work for anybody, is what's name two things that you purchase on a weekly basis that you need.
Gas and groceries.
Okay, exactly. And how do you pay for that?
With a card.
Exactly. People hate credit cards. However, if you utilize a credit card for the things you need to survive,
Mhm.
it will give you a credit score. You just have to manage how much you spend and you got to make sure you make your payment. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
That's it. Live your life, pay for it with a card, be smart. That is it.
I like that a lot. I'm gonna throw in, like, it's important to have control
Exactly.
over your spending. Like, understand that just because I have a credit card doesn't mean that I can buy everything in the world and everything that I want, because that's not your money yet. What he's saying is,
Yep.
for your expenses that you were going to spend anyway, that you already have the money for, you put it on the card and then you pay that off immediately. Like, you don't let that.
Well, you don't want to get it to zero because if you have, let's say you have $1,000 limit on a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you pay it to zero every month, it reports as zero. There is no system set up to show real life time of your
Mm-hmm.
spending habits and your
Okay.
payments. So if you want to keep a small balance, the magic number is 30%. But in my opinion, if you want perfect credit, 10% of you want to always keep 10% of your card's limit as a balance.
Okay.
So $1,000, $100, and that shows the system that you are managing your spending habits at a 10% threshold and you have 90%, availability that you're being safe and cautious you're not using.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, like, that 10% rule. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense in terms of like having a statement balance at the end of the month, but you pay that off by the due date so that you don't get interest accruing on that money.
Exactly.
And then by the next time the statement cycle comes out, your expenses from that month will be on the next statement cycle.
And credit cards are simple interest. You will pay zero interest while gaining a credit score, which gives you the best financial loans and mortgages, cars, you name it. You're going to get the best of everything.
Okay. Now, do you recommend, if you're building that, to potentially do a lot of people finance a car before going for that first
Yeah.
house, and that could be a way also to
The
build up
car
credit?
helps. The only thing the car does for you is it shows that you're making an on-time payment. It doesn't matter what your balance is or your
Okay.
payment. So if you have 6 months in and you've never missed a payment,
Gotcha.
it helps a little bit, but
All right.
it's not a huge piece.
All right. So we're talking payment history. We're talking about just showing good spending habits, being able to manage your money. Now, you said that the credit score, that's like the third. You said that's like the third top thing to help people with their score. So let's talk about 2 and 1.
All right. Next is amount of debt you have.
Okay.
And the third piece is your income.
All right.
Those are your income, debt, credit score. Most important pieces.
Boom. Okay. So we've got our money.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of debt. Are we looking now certain kinds of debt? Is there a difference between, let's say I have student loans versus a bunch of consumer debt on a credit card or a car payment? Like, do the different kinds of debt impact you differently?
You could actually have 20 separate small student loans, right? Because they report funny. Sometimes you get a student loan from the government, or your school does a private student loan, and they'll break it down into a bunch of pieces. That it doesn't matter as long as you are making on-time payments, or for student loans, most of them are deferred anyways.
Yeah.
So that actually helps. So a lot of college students don't realize they have credit scores because their parents helped them get a student loan, but it's been deferring, right?
Okay.
Even though it's been deferred, it's still showing that they're not doing anything positive, but nothing negative. So it's actually giving them a score.
Okay. So by paying off debts, you're reducing the amount of debt you have. That puts you in a favorable situation. If you are consistently having a history of making on-time payments, that's improving the score.
Yep.
Then trying to maximize your income as much as possible. The more money that you make, the more I can say, like, I have available to make sure I can make this mortgage payment, right?
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything that we're missing on that for that first home, like those important things to think about?
So there's actually a myth that a lot of people don't know.
Okay.
You can actually buy a home with no credit score.
Okay.
And the only time I've ever seen this in my career is for people that were in an age where they didn't believe in credit cards. They're in their 60s now, right? And they just 50s and 60s, and they just never financed anything. So I go to pull their credit, and there's nothing there. There was like an auto loan 12 years ago, and it's like there's nothing to gauge how to how's this person going to pay their debt off. So if you have your own down payment, you can do a no score loan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just have to have 20% down.
You can actually do it with 10% down.
Okay.
But 20, obviously, I did one 6 months ago, and it was, I'll be honest, it was the easiest one I've ever done in my entire career. I wasn't expecting it to be that easy, but no score. They had 20% down. They were just older.
Okay.
And they didn't believe in anything, financing really anything.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
I always bring in Dave Ramsey whenever I get into conversations. I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey's. I picked up a lot of principles from him that I've learned over the years. But I also love having conversations about leverage too, which I know that he's pretty against leverage in a lot of other situations. But some people think that Dave Ramsey says that, like, you have to be able to buy a house. No, he says that you need to get rid of your consumer debt first and then save up a down payment.
Yep.
Not that you have to be able to buy a house just outright. That's a lot. And I think some people don't realize that or miss that, and then they get overwhelmed thinking that they have to have all this money. But you also just said It doesn't even have to necessarily be 20%. So what are some ways to approach that down payment?
So you actually, and that's another myth. You don't. There's plenty of home loans out there. You don't need a down payment. You, for instance, you
Yeah.
served veteran, zero down, my friend.
Yes.
Yep.
VA loan.
Yep. VA loan, nothing down. It is hands down the best loan that it will ever exist. Nothing will ever touch it, which is well deserved. I think every veteran deserves it. That's why the program's so great. The second best one is actually if you buy in a rural county, like Spencer County, like we're in.
Okay.
All of Spencer County, Shelby County, Bardstown. It's called a USDA loan. It's rural housing.
Okay.
Zero down, but it's based on your family size and your household income for you to qualify.
Okay.
As I've been in this career, that income limit for the qualifications just keeps going way up. So like, it's actually really easy to qualify. I mean, and I know this number off the top of my head because I look at it so often. But a single person that wants to buy a house with zero down can make, I think it's 92. I think it's like 92,750 in gross income, and put zero down.
All right.
Yeah.
Wait,
and that's if you're out in your rural
is that
counties.
The minimum they have to be making?
No, that's the max.
That's the max.
Yeah.
Wow. So you can be making less than that and be able to pay zero down and get a home.
And as I think everyone knows, if you read any sort of news, I mean, the median income, it's discussed in the whole world all the time because everything costs more than it should. No one's making enough money to technically, meet the demands of inflation and all that good stuff. So the average income is way below 90, 92,750. So like it's so easy to actually buy a home with zero down.
Wow.
Yep.
See, that's exactly why I brought them, because it's good to know this stuff when you're thinking about that first house. Now, I think that covers some great points. I think that gives anybody that is thinking about wanting to get a first home at least a starting point. Like, get your credit right, work on improving that income. You know some different ways to approach the down payment now. You should save some. I left out, you also need an emergency fund if you're going the Dave Ramsey route. Like, that's an important piece if you're going into it, because when you buy a house, there can be unexpected expenses, maintenance costs, things that happen. So remember that when you're thinking ownership, that also means I'm responsible for the things that go on with this house. So if you're getting a used house, be prepared to have a little bit of backup money so that you don't put yourself in a bad situation.
Even in that emergency fund, I'm gonna lay something else out there too. Okay. Every person that buys their first home, you're gonna go in there with this mindset. I'm only gonna do this. I'm not gonna worry about that back room. But once you go to Lowe's and Home Depot, especially if you're married, you guys are gonna have 19 projects going at once, and that emergency fund is gonna be gone fast. So I agree with you. Emergency fund, save, because you're gonna need it for things you don't even realize.
Oh yeah. You start, and even if everything is at a good point right now, you're going to want changes eventually. You're going to want something's going to come up. And like you said, you walk into Home Depot, you start seeing all the good ideas. And just thinking of something like, we should do that.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this out there for people our age. You ever seen Supermarket Sweep?
Yes.
Okay, you know how they just stuck their arm around shelves and just put everything expensive? That's how it is when buying a home at Home Depot. You just put your arm out, swoop everything in that you want into your cart.
We're going to need all of this.
Yep.
All right. So let's say we've got that first home now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that can lead to a lot of other potential steps.
Yes.
Like there is a lot of potential next moves once you're in a good position. Let's say you've had a home for a few years or whatever, but you're in a comfortable position and you're thinking about some other things in life now. Like we're past that first step. So what's the best way to, let's say I want to upgrade homes.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my first one for a little bit. What's the process look like now for us saying we want to upgrade or get a different home?
So I tell this to every person I help that buys their first home. I say, whatever you do, if you can just stay in this property for at least the 2 years.
Okay.
That way you can dodge any capital gains. For those that don't know, capital gains is a tax on profit that you make on, selling real estate. But that 2-year mark, because it's your primary residence, as long as you can wait that 2 years, you won't pay a dime on any profits that you make.
Yes.
So my wife and I's first house, we listed it, thought it was going to work out great for that 2 year, and they wanted to close The person buying it wanted to close on the sale of it like 6 days before our 2-year mark.
Oh,
And I was prepared to walk away. Like, no, I'm not selling
right.
this. Like, I'm not paying
Yeah.
tax on this profit. So we got them. They agreed. We stayed. So we closed on 2 years and 1 day.
Yes.
So we could dodge.
We made it.
So we could dodge. Yeah, we could dodge because I think it was like, I think it's 15%.
Yeah.
After that first year
Oh,
in
yeah.
between, which we were young. So
Uh-huh.
15% taxes. I mean, we made like it's like 25,000. So we're like, we already had plans with that money, for the
Yeah.
next house. So that 2-year mark is so key in my opinion.
Yes.
On your first home.
And just think about what the housing market has been doing.
Constantly appreciates.
Significantly
Oh my goodness.
appreciating
Yep.
every year. And so what he's saying is in 2 years from now, your house is going to have appreciated in value, like most likely. Unless there's some kind of unexpected crash, but that's unlikely. You think about the last one was 2008.
Yeah.
But that's still...
We've dodged that bullet.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. We have the last 2 years, everybody in the financial world who's on the opposite side of real estate,
Mhm.
and stocks, bonds, all these other money market managers, all these people. Oh, it's gonna crash, and then you get all these believers. Well, it never happened because it was actually impossible. It couldn't happen this time.
Oh.
The demand is so high for homes. It's not possible for the market to crash because there's too many people wanting to buy.
Right.
So while the market's been tough, I knew that was never going to happen. And you mentioned appreciation on homes. Firm example is, let's say you buy a house $200,000, even in today's market for $200,000. I promise you, in 2 years' time, you could probably sell that thing at a minimum for $230 because the demand, even if you list it for $215, depending on when you sell it, you'll sell it for $230.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's $30,000 just to live in, just to wake up in your house every day.
But you got to hit that 2-year
that
mark.
2-year mark, yeah, no
or
taxes.
You're gonna pay. So in that example, you buy it for $200, it appreciates $30,000, let's say. But you sell it before the 2-year mark, you're gonna pay taxes on the $30,000 gain.
Yep.
So that's the capital gains tax that you'll pay. But you hold it till the 2-year mark or beyond.
Yep.
You don't have to pay the capital gains tax on that money. That's your money because it was your primary residence you lived in.
That is correct.
Boom.
Yep.
That's in itself gold. That's important to know. So we're holding the house for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what does...
Well, now think you're talking about second home and upgrading. This is where it gets beautiful. So let's say you bought your house. Let's just say you didn't do a down payment assistance program. You put 5% down. Okay. Mm-hmm. You've made your payments. The home appreciated. You sell it. Not only are you going to, make whatever profit is in there,
Mm-hmm.
After we can get into this another time, real estate commissions and stuff like that. But you're also, whatever equity you've already built from paying your first down payment and your payments you've already made, that money was gone 2 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put it down, use it towards the new one.
Yeah.
Roll it over. There's no reason to use it for anything else unless you wanted to pay something off. You had a small debt.
Right.
But that's the beauty of it. You're 5% down now, potentially depending on what you make, it can be 10% down. Mm-hmm. Which means your next level tier for a better loan, better equity.
Yeah.
Keep doing that, right? Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, you don't have a mortgage.
Yeah. You
might be on your fourth house, but you don't have a mortgage.
Mm-hmm. That's a great tip. So you're going to have more money at the end of it from the appreciation, and you're getting your money back.
Yeah.
So your down payment,
you're getting money to wake up every day and live.
So you're getting that money back on the sale of the first house that you can use for the down payment on the next. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, people will do a contingency contract, right? Where it's closing on this house is contingent on us closing on selling this house. So you can actually line it up to be able to do both things at the same time, buy our new house and sell our first house.
The most I've been in a domino of this was there were 6 deals, all with the same, what you just said. Selling this one, buying this one, contingent, and it was just boom, 6 in a row. And I had the first one. You talk about pressure. I had 5 other parties, buyers, sellers, realtors, closing attorneys, you name it. There was probably 30 people in my ear from
Mhm.
day one that if we didn't close on time, it was going to domino effect in a negative way
Ooh.
every single other deal. Yeah, that wasn't very fun.
Yeah. No, that sounds stressful. Okay, so I mean, I like that. I think that puts you in a good position. So you're in a better position after 2 years
Mhm.
to be able to upgrade, or if you have to move to a new state. Like a lot of friends, people that listen, or
Yep.
military, so moving to different states, for moving to a new base, that's something to consider. A lot of times, I'll throw this out there for the soldiers that listen. A lot of times you're at your duty station for at least 2 years. So if you are buying a house in that situation, you avoid the capital gains. That house appreciates. You're in a good position to be able to sell. So that is something to think about, that I think is
Mhm.
good to throw out there. Now let's talk about refinancing,
Sure.
because I've actually approached you with that before. That's another reason I was like, I know that he'll shoot it straight. He's not just worried about, like, I'm just trying to get paid. I'm going to
Oh
give you the
no.
best advice
Yep.
possible to make sure you make a good informed decision. And then if that happens to be like we're doing a loan, cool. Like, we'll make a little money, and we're going to make this business happen. But you're also not afraid to tell somebody if this isn't the best move right now. So let's talk
Oh,
about
1000%.
let's talk about what refinancing looks like, and then when might be a good time for somebody to make that decision.
So refinance is pretty much the same as buying a home. As besides, there's no sellers involved. It's strictly you and your bank or lender. Um, just you gather I gather the same information, and I break it down based on goals. So some people have goals of, hey, I want to shorten my term. If I can keep the same payment, great. But if I can shave off some years on what I owe,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want. Or some are more payment driven, right? They want to save on that monthly payment. Or you have some that want to pay off debt. So it just really depends on that person's situation, and what their personal goals are. That's actually why I love this job so much. No deal or everyone's different. Every
Mm-hmm.
situation's different. It's never the same. I guarantee, I can promise you this. I've never gone into my day of work and had deja vu, because everything is always so different.
Yeah.
There's new people I'm helping. So that's what I really like about refinancing, is that it's more personal,
Yeah.
because now you've already become, I'm friends with most of the people I work with and I've helped, over my 11 years. I mean, I got a referral from, somebody I helped 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Hadn't talked to them in probably
Yeah.
4 or 5 years. And they referred me somebody. So when it comes to refinances, it's more personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's about their situation and their goals, and what they want. And like you said, if it doesn't make sense, I will flat out tell you there's no reason to do this loan. I get, and I always say I'm paid on commission by
Yeah.
closing a loan. So by me telling you no, it's my way of saying, look, I need to make money to take care of my family, but this makes zero sense. I won't
Yeah.
I won't force anybody to do a loan. But the right time, if you, let's just say payment driven, because I think that's what most first time, second home
Mm-hmm.
buyers are looking for. If you can get your interest rate about 1% lower than what you have, um, regardless of the situation, you need to take advantage of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what I'm hearing is, if you can lower your interest payment, or
Mm-hmm.
like your interest rate,
Yep.
that could be a potential, by 1% at least. Then that could be a potential reason to refinance. If you're wanting to reduce the amount of time that you pay on the loan, like let's say you
Yep.
initially took out a 30-year and you decide, like, I want to be able to pay this off sooner, even if it means paying a little more. I want to refinance to cut it down to a 15-year or something like that.
Oh, the amount of interest saved on years shaved off a mortgage is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you did, let's say you were in it for 2 years and you refied to 25 years, just imagine 3 years. Let's say your payment stayed the same and you cut 3 years off of interest. I mean, you're talking on a normal size small loan, you're
Mhm.
talking $30,000 to $36,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's mind boggling.
Yeah.
But if you're talking cutting 10 plus years off, I don't know. My brain can't do that math right now.
Right.
It's a big
Right.
number.
I mean, but so that's another potential option. Now, do people refinance because they are wanting to get equity out of the house? Like, let's say we've owned this house for like 4 or 5 years, And from our payments and our down payment, like now we have a good amount of money in there. Plus the house is appreciated in value. Like, do
That's
people refinance
oh
to
yeah.
get that equity out?
That's where a lot of people refinance to pay off your consumer debts, your credit cards that have the
Mm-hmm.
18 to 20%, because all of that debt isn't tax deductible, whereas your mortgage is. So not only can you take out, cash out on your equity and pay off some of these other liabilities that you're struggling with because you're paying
Mm-hmm.
so much interest, you might save a couple $100, $1,000 a month, but now your tax deduction for your mortgage is higher, which increases your refund. That's something
Mm.
most people don't realize is they see it kind of as a negative. They don't want to get behind and add to the mortgage. They feel like they're kind of backsliding a little bit,
Right.
but it's a way to utilize what you have, leverage, like you
Mm-hmm.
said earlier.
Yeah.
To save money on other things that you're struggling to pay off, and also get a benefit of a higher tax refund because
Yeah.
you're technically paying more interest on your mortgage now,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a deduction. I mean,
Yeah.
it's weird. Like gosh, I could go down this massive rabbit hole right now. I'm trying not to make it confusing because
Yeah, we don't want to get too confusing.
I feel like I could dig like 8 feet down and just keep
Tonight's one-on-one, so we're gonna get into the basics.
Yeah, let me back off this
and,
500
and you all join the conversation, give some feedback, and if you all want us to do a deeper dive, I'll bring Dustin back again sometime.
Oh yeah,
we can make that happen. I think.
Yeah, we could probably do 10 shows, and I don't think that would touch much.
Yeah. Health, fitness, fat loss, sleep, all goals that are impacted by the fuel you put into your body. I've tried meal prepping at home, and I've tried multiple meal prep companies, including those that deliver, but I'll be honest, nothing has been better than the meals I get from Prepping with Peppers. They offer fresh, never frozen meals on a weekly rotating basis, so you don't have to get tired of eating the same meals over and over again. So save yourself some time for the things that matter most by ordering your meals at preppingwithpeppers.com.
Yeah.
There's so much, and I love talking it because it's great stuff to learn. Real estate is such a fantastic avenue to like have your money, and whether it's your primary residence to be able to get that equity out and the appreciation over time, or whether it's getting into investment properties. So where we're talking about, leveraging that equity, now when we start to think, are there ways to approach if I want to get an investment property?
Oh yeah.
Like, so now let's say we're past that first house, or maybe even we've moved into a second home. Like, we understand real estate a little more now. Like, we've gone through this a time or two.
Sure.
And now we're like, let's play the game of real estate investing and see what that's all about. What's a good way to get started, and some things to know about maybe getting that first investment property and ways to do that?
Turn your second or third house into an investment property. Okay. Because you bought it as a primary, which means you either put zero down or the minimum down, and now you can turn it into an asset. It's an income producing property that you own. Whereas if you let's say you go to buy one, you're staying in your house, you want to buy one that's just listed. Yeah, you're gonna need 20% down. Whereas you can just house hack it, just keep buying primary residence, move every 2 years, turn it into an investment property. Next thing you know, you own 4 or 5, and you've never put down more than 0 to 5%. Yeah. So you could technically buy 4 houses for, let's say, 20% down total, 5 on each, instead of putting 20 down on one property. Yeah. So just house hack it. If that's your goal to start this, pyramid of generational wealth for your family, right? First house being that first step. Second house, investment property. Buy your next one. Live in it for 2 years. If you can sacrifice your first couple of years of owning a home and doing that, unbelievable. Yeah. What your first 10 years are going to look like. You'll have $1 million in real estate and not even realize it. So this is something that I see here. I want to make sure that we clarify or figure out, like, what's the good way to do this. So we've got our house. Now we're like, I want to get an investment property. Yep. So I still have a mortgage on this house, but I want to be able to get this property. So what's a good way to do that? Are we leveraging the equity that's in this house for the down payment over here, and then renting out the first house? That's what we're saying? So that's what you could do 2 ways. You can cash out and actually take the funds out and apply it towards, or you can open a line of credit, right? I think
Okay.
even somebody who doesn't know what a mortgage knows what a home equity line of credit is, because it's out there a lot. I think it's in a lot of commercials and stuff like that. Easiest way to think about it, it's a credit card on your house, and you have access to it constantly. It allows you to access your equity, which you can pull out for your down payment on investment property.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, which is there? Are either one of those a better option? Home equity line of credit, or we may say HELOC for
Yeah,
shortening
for sure.
it, or the cash out refinance to be able to have the money to
It
pay
depends on the market.
Okay.
I would say right now, a cash out refinance makes more sense because the rates that the government controls rates. Everybody, let's just throw that out there. It's not a conspiracy. It's unfortunate, but anyways, the HELOC rates are really monetized by the Fed, the government. And right now, with inflation, that's what they've done. They've raised rates. So a home equity line of credit or HELOC, it's just it's super high. So
Okay.
cashing out on your equity if you can is the more beneficial route.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's just all about the market. It's a roller coaster. They change spots. Which one has more relevance and which one's more important?
Okay. So then, what are some successful strategies you've seen for financing to flip a property or to use construction loans? So, just to make sure we're all on the same page, like flip is when you are buying a property knowing it needs work and doing the renovations and then turning around and selling it for a profit.
Correct.
So that's what we mean when we say flip. What are some good ways to go about financing for flip and using construction loans?
Sure. So it's not that difficult to get a construction loan or a investment property that you can flip. The problem is qualifying for it. Making sure you can carry all of your debts, your current home, and then the potential of carrying, even though you're going to sell it, you still have to show that you can carry it just in case you keep it, right? So it's the same situation that you and I just talked about. You still have to have your 20% down.
Okay.
But there's loans out there that allow you to, and you and I personally experienced this, to allow you to roll in the rehab costs. Which is unbelievable because, 20,000, let's say, $20,000 cash to fix a kitchen or redo a kitchen. That's a lot of money, right? On top of the money you just put down. So a rehab loan is wonderful because instead of putting 20% down on 100,000, you're putting 20% down on 120,000.
Yeah.
So for simple math, everybody, that's what is that, $24,000. So you're spending $24,000 to do it with a rehab loan versus standard investment property to flip, where you're going to spend $40,000 out of pocket. 20 for the down payment, 20,000 cash for the rehab. Don't do that if you don't have to.
Right.
You want to find a loan or somebody that knows what they're talking about. I can help you to point you in the right direction because, like you said, leveraging somebody else's money is the easiest way to just start climbing up that mountain and building wealth, because you can't just start out. You can't just make money up out of nowhere. You got to borrow it first and use somebody else's. I mean, that's the best way to do it.
So understand, this is where we're a little bit farther down the road. Okay, so you understand through the process of buying a home once or twice some of those intricacies, and you decide to get here. Now I want to revert back to the making sure you have a good, comfortable emergency fund. Unexpected things happen. We've experienced unexpected things in investments that we've done.
Yes.
So plan for bad things to happen. Like, plan for backup, because it can happen. And you don't want to end up in a situation where you're over leveraged and you do not have the money to be able to make all of your payments. Like, that's what we're talking about. We don't want that. But when you do have that good emergency fund and you do have some extra money to invest, or you decide we've got a ton of equity just sitting in our house, we want to get it invested in something. So let's get this money out and do it. That's what we're talking about right now when you're in that more comfortable place. So I don't want you doing things that are going to be put you in a negative situation.
For sure.
But think about that. He's saying that if you were to take that mortgage out on the $120,000 house you're looking at or 120 with the renovation cost. You'd have the $20,000 down payment for the mortgage itself plus 20,000 in renovation costs,
and it's all rolled in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
if
it's
you're doing
got
the rehab loan, instead of having to pay 40,000 out of pocket up front,
you're doing 24.
you're doing 24,000 up front. That's saving you $16,000 right now. So if you are prepared and like you're able to handle that, that's a great way to do it. You're spending less money up front, you're
Yep.
leveraging the bank's money, and then you are able to invest that way.
That's a $16,000 savings just by not being afraid to ask the question or ask for help.
Yeah.
Like just I tell people this all the time. Don't be afraid to ask for help when it's something you don't understand. Like for instance, when I help somebody at the house and they're trying to maybe push my buttons a little bit, like somebody told them this, they don't think I'm right. So I always sit. I look at them and like, look, when you have an issue in your house, okay, your toilet, your shower, who do you call? Plumber. What do? I let him fix it. And you trust him? Yes, exactly. Trust me, because you can't. It's all about everything's
Right.
about trust in anything you do in life, and it's so important in finances because although everyone they do their own finances, we spend money, we make money. It's not what you do every day, so just don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you could, if you go to a good person, a good mortgage lender, somebody with a heart to serve, they're going to educate you on what the best decision to make is for you in that moment and allow you to make the decision. They're not making decisions for you; they're informing you.
Yep.
So I do got to say, I completely agree with you. Like, you're going to an expert for the expert advice. You know, you don't ask your friend, how do I fix my sink whenever it's got the leak. You're asking the plumber, you're asking a professional. So that's a great piece. Now, can you explain the difference between your mortgage loan and a construction loan? How does that work?
Yeah, so construction loans are different. It depends on how it's closed or what type it is, but typically you're not making payments during your construction phase, right? That's giving you time to do what you need to the property, get it ready to sell. So you're not having a financial strain on yourself while trying to focus on getting this thing ready for market. So as you and I have been a part of, depending on how long it takes, you will have to make an interest payment potentially every 6 months, or sometimes there's 12-month loans. But you can restructure, roll them back in. It just depends on the situation.
Right. So many things are situation dependent for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just about having a conversation, like you said.
Yep.
Like, ask somebody who's informed if you're thinking about it and not sure which route to go. Because when we started out with an investment we were doing, it was like, this is what we're thinking about doing. How do we do this? It was like, well, if we do this rehab loan instead of the mortgage loan, less money up front, right? It's just asking those questions. So great advice, great tips. Let's go to, if you could give one piece of advice to the younger version of yourself before your first house, what would what you want to tell yourself to set yourself up for success?
Before my first house.
When in regards to real estate, like, what is one piece of advice?
I wish I would have bought sooner.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I had the ability to buy a home probably 2 to 2.5 years before I did, and I regret that every single day.
Okay.
Because it's kind of, and just being a part of the industry and a part of the real estate world, I can go back and do the math on where this affected me. And
that's the worst.
as an actual number, because everybody loves numbers. Let's just say my net worth would be probably about $150,000 higher. I just bought a house 2 years sooner than I did the first time.
That's insane to think about.
Just for I was too afraid. I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, and didn't ask anybody. Didn't ask for any help. Nothing. So shame on me. But that would probably be the most important advice. Is just the risk versus reward here is really big when it comes to real estate.
with where we're at, I know that sometimes there's people that's like, because they saw a period of way lower interest rates and they know that they are higher now than they were. There are some people who are like, oh, maybe I should wait and see if interest rates go back down. What advice do you give people who are saying or thinking something like that, like holding because of interest rates?
I've got the easiest example to change everyone's mind who says that. Okay. All right. And I'm going to use simple math again. That $200,000 mark's an easy number because that's kind of where first time, homeowners price point is at this point, depending on where you're buying. So let's say you're wanting to wait a year for rates to drop, right? Okay. Well, that $200,000 house where it doesn't have much activity because everyone else is waiting, right? You can get it for 200. Well, let's wait a year, rates drop. Well, that $200,000 house now might go for over asking at 240. Your rate's lower, but now your down payment's higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your payment's higher. So what happened? You overpaid for a house. You have a higher payment. You cost yourself equity.
Yeah.
And money. It's like having a kid. Sometimes there's no good time. Just do it when you feel like you're ready and you're confident with it.
Right.
Because waiting is just, I waited to buy a house. It cost,
yeah.
Don't do it.
$150,000.
Yeah. I mean, there's proof in the pudding when it comes to the housing market and the financial world. Like it's just buy when you're ready. Be comfortable.
Right.
Who cares where it's at? You're going to find a way to lower your payment. Mm-hmm. You're going to find something you're comfortable with, you're happy with.
Right.
But yeah, waiting is going to do nothing but 10 to 15 offers on one house, and you're going to have to get lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So make sure your debts are taken care of. Make sure you've got a good, solid emergency fund that you feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. That's not only going to cover your normal living expenses, but cover you in case of emergencies with that investment.
Yep.
And then don't hesitate to pull the trigger when you're ready to do it. I like that. A piece I want to go back to, because I didn't even think to mention this, but I remember talking to a friend about this piece several years ago too. What are your thoughts on buying a duplex for your first primary residence to rent one out, and that being just an entry right into
wonderful idea. You can actually buy a 4-unit with 3.5% down. That's actually something I don't talk about a lot because, for one, in our area, that's hard to find. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 2 units perfect because 3.5% down on a 2-unit, rent the other half. It'll most likely pay for most of your own mortgage.
Yeah,
and you're just living there. It's great. Right. I mean, most people don't think about that. Mm-hmm. But if that ever comes about for somebody, I tell them to jump all over it because. Yeah. That's a great idea because not only is somebody paying it, but when you're ready to move, you now have 2 units making money. Yeah,
boom.
2.
It's really a quick step. So I recommended that to one of my friends, and not only did he take advantage of that, guess what else he had? A VA loan.
Oh yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
So just think about that. If you're already knowing that real estate is something in your future, before you get that first house, that is a great way to start with either a duplex or up to a 4-plex. It can be no more than a 4-plex.
No more than 4. Once you get to 5, it's considered like a business. It's commercial.
Yeah.
Which becomes a whole new ball game, and it's I'm not even licensed to do commercial because there's not enough time in the day for me to do both. I don't think it'd be possible. But yeah, we won't talk about that.
Okay. But so I'm just saying that in itself. If you are in that early stage, you want to get into real estate, consider that as an option because not only are you getting the equity in the property, you have a primary residence that you're going to get for significantly less because having that other unit rented out is covering the majority of your mortgage.
Well, and let's say, you're living in an apartment. You're kind of used to that life already.
Yeah.
It's not even a change. You just own it. That's pretty much the only difference.
Yeah. That's an incredible way to get started with the first house and investing at the same time. Mm-hmm. I feel like we've hit so much great stuff in terms of a base foundation across the board for investing, for that initial property, for second properties, for refinancing. So I don't want to get too detailed. I want to see what people say.
For sure.
See what people join in the conversation on. I will definitely bring you back for a deeper conversation if that's what people want, because I love having it.
We can go second homes and vacation homes, and then we probably need to do 2 or 3 episodes on investment properties because there's like 5 things I didn't want to talk about.
Right, that's next level. That's next.
It is.
So if you all are ready for the next level, I want you to like. I want you to comment that you're ready for the next level. If I get enough of those comments and likes, we're going to bring Dustin back. We're going to get into those things because great points. And now I want people to be able to find you. So what's the best way for people to connect, ask questions, come to you if they need something for a mortgage?
Honestly, my cell phone number, I've had the same number for so long. It is my personal business line, everything. It's my everything. So let's drop that on here.
Okay.
I'll throw my email and everything on there too. But yeah, man, I see that just as much as a text or a call. But I feel like everybody has my cell phone, and I will respond pretty quickly. As long if it's after 7, y'all have got to give me some time. I've got twin girls. They're 8, and I'm not bald because I want to be. No, I'm just kidding. Bald brothers over here. But yeah, cell phone for sure. I'm always available, and he and I were actually talking when I got here. I work all over the country, so I have quite a few clients in California that I'm dealing with right now. So if it's 10 o'clock, I'm probably talking to somebody out there anyway. So text me. I don't care. I'll answer it. Like I said, I love this stuff. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
every day. I mean, I've been doing this for so long. There's nothing else I'd rather do.
I love to hear
Yeah.
that. When you find something that you're truly connected to. All right, I'm dropping his personal phone number,
Go for
his
it.
email in the show notes. All right. So if you need to contact him about a mortgage loan, please do that. He's a wealth of knowledge. He'll steer you in the right direction. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking the time.
I appreciate you inviting me. This was fun.
Absolutely. No, it was a great time, and the information I really think will impact people's lives.
I think so too.
So thank you all for tuning in, allowing us to be a part of your journey. If you enjoyed the show, I need you to go like it. I need you to subscribe to whatever channel you're listening on. I need you to share it with somebody because I guarantee you have a friend or a family member who either wants that first home, who either wants to invest in a property, or who wants to make their first home an investment property, as we just talked about. So share it, get the information out there to other people. All right. Drop your comments, your thoughts, so that you can join the conversation and let's grow.